Now let's look at some of the commonly used words in the standard and help define them in a way that makes them easier to understand. Two of the most common words that you will see in the standard are shall and should. A shall is a hard requirement, while a should is considered best practice. You will also see shall paired with include or ensure when it is pointing to a policy or procedure. When you see shall include, these are items that must be included. In Section 425, the Quality Manual shall include or reference the supporting procedures, including technical procedures. If you see shall ensure, procedures and processes may be required, but the detail may be missing. However, the outcomes of these processes and procedures has to be evident, usually in the form of records. In V1M2 427, top management shall ensure that the integrity of the management system is maintained when changes to the management system are planned and implemented. Two terms that give allowances for things to happen that will appear in the standard are may and can. The term may grants permission for something to occur, while can indicates that a situation is possible. An example of may can be found in V1M2 4171, where staffing is limited, the technical manager and the quality manager may be the same person. Here, you're given permission to use the same person if necessary. An example of can be found in 531. The technical requirements for accommodation and environmental conditions that can affect the results of tests and calibrations shall be documented. In this case, if the environmental conditions have the potential to affect the results, perhaps the room temperature on a TCLP extraction, then that condition must be documented. In this case, you're required to monitor the ambient air temperature during a TCLP extraction. Flexible phrases are words that introduce subjectivity and floor flexibility to the standard. Labs should lean on the strictest interpretation of clauses that include these words, rather than trying not to fulfill requirements by using them as weasel words. Some example of these flexible situations include, wherever practical, in 510.3.1c, in addition to the requirements listed in 510.2, test reports shall, where necessary for the interpretation of test results, include the following, where applicable, a statement on the estimated uncertainty of measurement. It may or may not be applicable depending on your contract with your client. Wherever practicable can be found in 4332. Where practicable, the altered or new text shall be identified in the document or the appropriate attachments. You can find wherever relevant in Section 510.2k. Each test report or calibration certificate shall include at least the following information, unless the laboratory has valid reasons for not doing so. Where relevant, a statement to the effect that the results relate only to the items tested or calibrated. Wherever resources permit can be found in 414.1. It is the responsibility of the quality manager to plan and organize audits as required by the schedule and requested by management. Such audits shall be carried out by trained personnel and qualified personnel who are, wherever resources permit, independent of the activity to be audited. When necessary can be found in 510.9. When it is necessary to issue a complete new test report or calibration certificate, this shall be uniquely identified and shall contain a reference to the original that it replaces. Usually can be found in 510.1. The results shall be reported, usually in a test report or a calibration certificate, see Note 1, and shall include all of the information requested by the customer and necessary for the interpretation of the test or calibration results and all information required by the method used. Unless can be found in 510.2. Each test report or calibration certificate shall include at least the following information, unless the laboratory has valid reasons for not doing so. And sufficient can be found in 413.2.1. The records for each test or calibration shall contain sufficient information to facilitate, if possible, identification of factors affecting the uncertainty and to enable the test or calibration to be repeated under conditions as close as possible to the original. There are two categorizations of paperwork that we will see required throughout the standard. They include documents and records. So what's the difference? To boil it down, a document is something used by the laboratory that includes instructions on performing a task. This could include policies and procedures that we have previously discussed, but there are several other types of documents found in the lab as well, which we will discover. A record, on the other hand, has its historical evidence that a document has indeed been followed and the task completed. There are many terms used throughout the standard to indicate that a document is required to be developed by the laboratory. These words all indicate that a document is needed to describe what is happening. Nouns such as instructions, plan, policy, procedure, program, and system. And action verbs including arrange, define, document, establish, predefined, predetermined, and specify. Conversely, these words all indicate on this slide that a record is needed as proof that a task has occurred. Those keywords for nouns include feedback, list, in writing, record, register. Action verbs include check, document, evaluate, identify, monitor, validate, and verify. Please remember that in your learner files, there's a job aid that lists which portions of the standard require a policy, a procedure, or a record.